Megatron comes to the space station and Starscream meets him with a backup group, so the atmosphere is hostile. Megatron starts telling him to explain what he's been hiding. Starscream honestly says that they're not sure, which is why they have been monitoring it. He then explains that keeping it far from the Autobots was a good thing, even far from the Decepticons, because if it had harmful effects, the Decepticons might have been devastated and lost the war. Megatron counters that they might have won the war. Starscream in his prime sass tisks him, saying that he doesn't know that. Megatron grabs him by the throat, threatens him, but Starscream is a smug little thing and isn't even concerned. Megatron can't kill him because he needs the Seeker so badly. Megatron lets go of Starscream and orders him to show him the Dark Energon. Starscream claims that he's not seen Dark Energon for himself, but he entrusted it to his Seeker Engineer lieutenants, Bitstream and Hotlink. You'll notice that Starscream actually has 6 lieutenants, many specializing in science, so Starscream again argues that he's not a traitor since he had not let his Seekers consume the Dark Energon for potential power. Megatron says that he was smart enough to be afraid of it. Starscream claims that he is surprised at Megatron, a gladiator who has the diplomat skill of backhanded compliments. Megatron's extra layer of feelings for Starscream is revealed. He calls Starscream a creature of caste just like any Autobot pretender. See, now Starscream has lived a privileged life in the military caste, and so Megatron holds hatred for him, already based on that. The Autobots know that Megatron is on Trypticon. Optimus and his closest bots are gathered, and Alphatron walks in with the explanations. He asks them what they know of Energon and tells them it's the essence of Primus. So then what would the essence of Unicron be? Alphatron continues, saying that if the Decepticons took Dark Energon, they would become sickened bots, for anything derived from Unicron is ultimately fatal to life. However, before it is, the Decepticons might have the power to destroy them all. The Autobots are wondering what to do, then suddenly they get a request from Starscream to meet. Optimus is not sure if Starscream is setting up an ambush, or if he wants to defect to the Autobots. No one wants to go, so they ask Starscream to find a place to set up a secure channel for a video conversation. Optimus ponders how great it would be if they could get the Seekers on their side. When the call opens, however, Starscream is smack right to the point. He says 2 things. 1, if you don't know what Dark Energon is, you need to find out. 2, I need to know what to expect from you if something should happen to Megatron. Optimus of course says he wants peace. Starscream replies understood, then hangs up, confusing Optimus. Megatron had wanted to kill Sentinel, but Starscream has always been strongly against it because he thinks Sentinel could be a future bargaining tool. Sentinel has been locked up on Moonbase 1. Starscream visits him, angry. He says, "You Autobots believe in redemptive action, atoning for failures of will, things like that, right?" Sentinel denies being an Autobot, saying that he is neutral as a Prime. Starscream responds that if he had a chance to redeem himself for his cowardice at Alta Hex, he would take it. Sentinel is enraged, but Starscream continues. He calls him a coward for abandoning the people who needed his protection and leadership. Close to Sentinel's face, Starscream says this made him decide to commit to the Decepticons. Sentinel grims, questioning how committed Starscream really is. He also claims that time has taught him, and he's not the same bot anymore. He's willing to fight Starscream. After Starscream leaves, Megatron calls him and asks him where he is. Starscream simply tells him getting repairs done on Moonbase 1. Megatron orders him to return to Trypticon to see something regarding Dark Energon. While Starscream was out, Megatron and his gladiators ravage the scientists, killing those who do not submit. Starscream is shocked, but the station is now Megatron's. Starscream finds his science crew missing, replaced with new scientists. Shockwave is also present. Starscream rushes through the station, grabbing someone and demanding that they tell him where his crew is. He points out the clean room, and inside, Starscream finds his crew restrained, wounded, and some missing their voice boxes. Megatron creeps up behind him and says this is what happens when his superiors find out he cannot be trusted. Megatron talks about giving the station a spark, but Shockwave says there's no new sparks to put in it. Megatron then indicates the prisoners and claims that their sparks can be used. The prisoners cannot cry out, and what happens next to some of them is so bad that apparently Starscream turned his head because he could not look. Next, Megatron tells Starscream to pick 2 of his own staff to test Dark Energon on. Starscream hesitates, and Megatron wonders if he pushed Starscream too far. He wanted to break Starscream and control him by doing this, not make him snap and have to kill Starscream. After all, he still needs Starscream. Yet Starscream does submit, and he chooses 2 victims. These 2 are restrained in another room, and their Shockwave force feeds them both a small amount of Dark Energon. They spasm, collapse. then suddenly are filled with immeasurable strength and tear themselves free of their bonds. They fight off the guards easily until the lab's defenses fire upon them, knocking them, the guards, and the scientists over. Megatron is so impressed by their strength and resilience that he immediately gives himself some Dark Energon. Megatron feels power like he never had before, as though he had been a struggling weakling all his life until now. He is fueled with bloodlust and wants to tear apart waves of enemies, and he sees the same violent hunger on the faces of the test subjects. Megatron says to them, "Yes, it is not enough, isn't it?" Starscream is shaken. He creeps over to the fallen scientist, Autoclave, helps him to his feet and whispers, "How much more Dark Energon is there?" Megatron hears them and crushes any dream of destroying the Dark Energon. He asks them how more can be made. Autoclave leans on Starscream and goes to the computers, showing how Dark Energon corrupts regular Energon to create more of it. The problem is that Cybertron is running out of Energon. Starscream starts slipping out of the room, and Megatron tells him that he might let him have Dark Energon when he returns. Jazz and a small team of Autobots are hit by the first group of darkened Decepticons. It is a nightmare as the Decepticons fight as though they feel no pain, so invigorated to kill. Everyone but Jazz is slaughtered as they try to run, which is all they can do. These bots are unstoppable, and Jazz flees for his life. Decepticons start brutally massacring groups of Autobots here and there, exactly what Optimus feared would happen. But they cannot destroy Trypticon Station when Decepticon Seekers by far outnumber the Autobot ones. Optimus does notice, however, that the Decepticons are not holding onto the land they conquer, meaning that they have a huge Energon supply problem. He discovered that the weakness of Dark Energon is that it gets burned up more quickly. Optimus decides that the Autobots must continue the run to make the Decepticons chase them and burn up their Dark Energon supply. Megatron thinks about the successes of Dark Energon. It has made his forces nearly invincible, but whenever they run low on fuel, the Autobots are able to win the battles. Megatron thinks of the taste of Dark Energon to be sweet, but it is the power that makes him addicted and want more. They started experimenting with the two test subjects, seeing what would happen if they only gave them regular Energon from there on out. Now they have to be restrained as the absence of Dark Energon agonizes them. Megatron decides he will never let himself go this insane, even if he has to drink the darkened blood of everyone else. Megatron wants to bring up a large supply of Energon to Trypticon Station to darken, and Soundwave brings up the geosynchronous Energon bridge. Megatron summons Starscream to make this happen. He tells Starscream to put the station first into orbit before doing something else for him. Starscream, because of his boredom in space, looks forward to flying missions, but now must undertake this one. At last, Starscream and his lieutenants try Dark Energon for themselves and instantly become addicted. They blast through Autobot resistance and make it into the tunnels below Crystal City. Being underground makes him uncomfortable, but the Dark Energon urging him to fight makes him restless. The Seekers find the Energon bridge very quickly due to their deep experience in searching for things. Meanwhile, Megatron is pacing in front of Forsyth because he is uncomfortable with giving Starscream such an important mission. But he considers the Seeker commander, believing that his skill gives him too much value. Megatron thinks that he's a superb flyer, officer, soldier, and advisor. When Starscream is successful, he is satisfied but not surprised. That title of being a failure has not yet fallen upon him, as you can see. Starscream is kept waiting in the underground of the bridge as it activates, and while he is there, he secretly contacts his Seekers and tells them that Operation Unlock has commenced. Megatron likes to make appearances among the southern cities to remind him that he is one of them. He steps out and addresses a huge army, rallying them for the final attack on Iacon. Then he returns to Trypticon, where the scientist, Catalicon, reports that this Energon bridge still won't generate enough Energon for his massive army. Soundwave says that there will be enough if they control the plasma energy chamber below Iacon. Megatron had thought this was a myth, but Soundwave's minicons have found out about it when spying on Crystal City. They need two keys to control it: justice and power. Megatron sends Starscream and his lieutenants out again to get the key of power underneath the High Council chamber. They use underground tunnels, flying swiftly and blasting any lone Autobot they find before the enemy can be alerted. At the same time, he himself leads the group towards it. He follows the map underground and arrives at the location, and from the shadows steps Sentinel Prime. Megatron did not know of Operation Unlock, but he knows this is Starscream's doing. It looks like Starscream has given Sentinel the chance to kill Megatron, and Sentinel is definitely upset with him. He says that Megatron was a killer from the start, for long ago when Megatron was only a crime boss, Sentinel had sent two bots to investigate him. both were murdered. To that, Megatron counters that 2 is nothing compared to the millions who suffered under Sentinel's caste system. Sentinel then claims that Megatron will keep telling himself that even when Optimus is impaled by his sword, but Megatron believes that Optimus and the institutions of the past shall die. They engage in a sword battle filled with taunts. Megatron expresses that Sentinel cannot atone himself, dying for an idea he never believed in. However, Sentinel is a changed character, brave and fighting now to make a future better than the past. On Dark Energon, pain only makes Megatron more excited for violence. He wears down Sentinel and ultimately cuts off his arm. The cry Sentinel releases is said to be more than pain, but his lamenting of all he would never do for the future. Megatron slashes open Sentinel's chest, and then inside, he's amazed to see the Key of Justice. Starscream has in the meantime found the Key of Power and is flying back. As he flies, he thinks about how Dark Energon is ruining the Decepticons, turning them into bots starving for more. He decides he is going to stop using Dark Energon because a planet of addicts is not worth fighting for. Starscream arrives on scene as Megatron cuts off Sentinel's arm, and the Seekers sneak around to form a ring. Starscream creeps up behind Megatron as he looks at the key, planning to seize it from Megatron and have both. Just before Starscream can grab it though, Blackout sees Starscream and cries out, "Megatron, look out!" and throws himself in Starscream's path. Starscream had not actually known Sentinel had the final key, and until he saw it, was likely planning to kill Megatron on the ground while he was distracted by the fight. Now, Starscream pushes Blackout aside and Megatron immediately attacks him. Starscream and Megatron thus launch into an epic battle spanning some pages. The first shot got Starscream off guard, and as he gets to his feet, Megatron taunts him for being at a disadvantage, for down here there's no room to fly, and Megatron is naturally stronger than him. Charging at Starscream in tank form, he thinks the Seeker cannot escape, but Starscream half transforms to blast himself to the side just in time. Then, they engage in pure hand-to-hand combat, both high on Dark Energon. Megatron's punches are incredibly powerful, but Starscream is very agile and fast, spinning and dodging, and striking faster than Megatron can react. Megatron notes that this is the Seeker in him, but Megatron withstands the blows and waits for Starscream to get arrogant and sloppy. The moment Starscream gets too confident and isn't careful with his balance, Megatron takes him to the floor and pounds him into limpness. Then he picks up the battered Starscream to intimidate the watching ring of Seekers. He still decides to keep Starscream alive, so long as he lets the coup attempt be a thing of the past. Starscream is so hurt and humiliated that he can only glare, but Megatron lets him. Then Megatron makes a show out of honoring Blackouts, who had warned him. He even grants him the honor of putting Sentinel Prime's body in the pits of Chaos he hated. Then he humiliates Starscream again by making him hand over the Key of Power. Megatron takes the key and feels euphoria, sure that this marks the downfall of the Autobots and the start of a great era. These keys unlock a door into a room, and inside, there's a small cylinder glowing on a pedestal. Yet before Megatron can even touch it, several things happen. Cut back to Optimus. He knows Megatron and Starscream are below the city, and he is planning a counterattack. That is when Alpha Trion comes in, saying that the plasma energy chamber is in danger of falling into Decepticon hands, so Teletran 1 has reawakened Omega Supreme. Megatron and the Decepticons stagger as the room begins to transform. The plasma energy chamber is encaged and descends, escaping Megatron. Then, the ceiling begins to collapse. Outside, the Autobots watch the High Council Tower descend and start to rise as something else. The thing is, Omega Supreme was thought to be a mythical character, protector of the Prime's relics. To see him now is like seeing a story come to life, and Optimus wonders what other stories could be true. Omega Supreme in alternate form starts to fly away, carrying the plasma energy chamber to safety. When everything in the tower was collapsing, the Decepticons were racing to safety. The scientist Catalicon gets crushed, and Megatron notices Starscream looking up for an opening to escape with his Seekers. Megatron calls him out, that if Starscream flees and leaves him to die, then he will kill Starscream when he survives. But if Starscream flies out on a mission to stop Omega Supreme, he may leave. Starscream asks for a reward in Dark Energon, unable to hold back his craving. Then, he and his 6 lieutenants go to battle with Omega Supreme. Omega Supreme calls the Autobots, saying that he should have been awakened before things got so dire. Optimus replies that they had not known, but then suddenly, 7 jets in perfect formation escape the damage zone. The few Autobot Seekers are not around at the moment except for Jetfire. For a long time, Jetfire has been trying to work out a way to convert ground Autobots into flyers, but it seems to be a scientific dead end. They cannot take on Starscream and his lieutenants, but they can look for Megatron and try to stop him. Omega Supreme has absorbed the basic facts of the war from the grid, learning that 85% of Cybertron is under Decepticon control. 3 council members are still alive but on the Decepticon side. The Allspark has been injected, and Sentinel Prime is dying. He slows to combat the 7 Seekers following him. In the heavy fire in the sky, Optimus, with his naturally sharp eyes, watches 3 of Starscream's lieutenants get killed. They're not named, but we know the survivors, thus Hotlink, Bitstream, and Acel have been killed. The Seekers come out victorious and down Omega Supreme, and Megatron beats Optimus to him. They are outnumbered and Optimus considers the retreat, wondering if the loss of 3 most powerful Seekers and many of Megatron's gladiators who had been crushed would count as a victory. But Jazz knows they can't let the Decepticons have the plasma energy chamber, and so he starts the battle for it. Optimus and his 3 closest Autobots will fight Megatron, a dozen darkened soldiers, and the 3 Seekers on their own. But then, Omega Supreme rises from the hole in bot form, and the sight of it is the most inspirational thing Optimus has ever witnessed. They roar into battle. Omega is big, but not Metroplex or Trypticon big. The Gladiators take him down, so incredibly powerful from the Dark Energon. Every time one of them dies, the Dark Energon leaves their body as though alive, and it worms its way through into the other Decepticons to make them stronger. During this fight, Ironhide takes a hooked chain whip to the face and is terribly damaged. In the end, Megatron stands over Omega Supreme's exposed spark, taunting the Autobots that he will kill him. Starscream has just landed with his remaining 3 lieutenants, which we'll learn in Exiles to be Thundercracker, Slipstream, and Skywarp. Megatron tears out the plasma energy chamber and says that this is why Autobots should stop hiding the important things inside their bodies. Megatron will leave Omega Supreme alive if the battle ends now, and so he drives away with the energy chamber and Omega Supreme survives. Optimus gets Ratchet to repair him and resolves that the Autobots will have to get the energy chamber back another day. Things aren't all bad, for apparently more Seekers have been joining the Autobots lately, and Optimus hopes that with Starscream's ambition and the Dark Energon addicts, the Decepticons will tear themselves apart. Unbeknownst to him, Bumblebee has snuck off to follow Megatron. Megatron corrupts the plasma energy chamber and puts it in the geosynchronous Energon bridge, henceforth creating an infinite supply of Dark Energon. He realizes that he could win the war by never fighting again, letting the Autobots starve to the point of needing Dark Energon for fuel. But he does not want that, for the gladiator in him wants to fight for his victory. Bumblebee sees what Megatron has done and cannot do anything but report the horrible news to the Autobots, that Cybertron is now producing Dark Energon instead of Energon. At this time, Optimus and his friends are looking through the wreckage zone for Sentinel Prime, said to have been possibly alive since Megatron had severely wounded him but not killed him. Optimus tells the others that he believes Starscream released Sentinel in an attempt to terminate Megatron based on the vague video call they earlier had. Jazz is pessimistic, thinking they are wasting time looking for Sentinel and Optimus should worry about the living. Then Prowl calls him and claims that Sentinel Prime just sent a message, and Optimus realizes that is why he couldn't find a body. Prowl used to be a local police officer for civilians and he is good at investigating. He believes that the message from Sentinel came from the south, in Kaon. Optimus wants to withdraw all Autobot forces to Iacon, but Bumblebee, with his patchy vocoder in his throat, says that it can't just leave Sentinel to die. His youthful concern shuts everyone up and they realize he is right. Even if Sentinel was not an Autobot before, he has changed. Jazz is bitter about how long it took him, but he thinks this is a trap set up by Megatron or even Starscream, because in his words, that Seeker has more schemes in him than Ironhide has scars. Ratchet steps into the meeting and says that Omega Supreme will live. Optimus asks how long before he can fight again, since the situation is so dire, but Ratchet is quite offended on the patient's behalf. Optimus feels embarrassed for being so thoughtless and he plans to later apologize to Ratchet. Then he thanks Bumblebee for bringing him news even if it is bad. Optimus tells Alpha Trine that he is planning to go to Kaon to save Sentinel, the one whose title he appropriated. Alpha Trine assures him, telling him that the High Council bestowed that title upon him for a reason. He also reveals to Optimus that he was the one who had put the idea forward. Alpha Trine supposedly tells Optimus some very important information before he picks a team and goes to Kaon prison. With him he has Jazz and Prowl, and for backup, Bumblebee, Jetfire, and Sideswipe. It is easy to get close to Kaon because Decepticons don't think Autobots would be stupid enough to travel there. and Optimus tows a trailer of machine parts and gets past a board sentry. They head to the black pyramid Optimus has been to before, which is lightly guarded. They silently kill a guard and drag away his body before stepping inside a place coated in dark energon. The former gladiator pits have become the prison, but most prisoners chained up are dead, left to starve to death without energon. The place is disgusting and resembles the underworld of Cybertron. Then, Optimus sees Sentinel Prime before he is suddenly ambushed by guards. These guards cry out in an underworld dialect that Optimus cannot understand, so it seems that the Decepticons have gotten along with the bots who lived underground. They end up defeating the guards, and Optimus comes to Sentinel Prime. He is fatally damaged and dying, and he ends up telling Optimus to not call him a Prime, for he is no longer one. Sentinel thinks Optimus is the true Prime who will do better than he did, and he urges Optimus to help the core, for as Sentinel grows closer to death, he hears its voice speaking to him but growing weak. Sentinel passes away and Optimus cuts him free from his chains. They hold a small funeral for Sentinel and lay his body in a crypt in Icon. With his death, Optimus' status as a Prime is more official. To Jazz, Optimus asks him how many of the 13 Primes might be alive, but Jazz calls them all mythical, so none. Optimus now journeys to the core of Cybertron with only Jetfire and Bumblebee. There are walkways down, built long ago, for once bots wandered out from the well aimlessly, but then settlements were built close to the well to teach the new bots about Cybertronian life. They come to a secret door to the core that Alpha Trion let them know about, and they proceed. The dark energon has spread everywhere down here, and its effects start to mess with them. Jetfire becomes aggressive, thinking it would be fine for him to try some of the dark energon. Optimus warns him that he can't let the dark energon control him, otherwise he will attack them and they will be forced to kill him. Optimus assures Jetfire that they need him, and Jetfire submits to him but he is too proud to apologize. Then they come to a part where dark energon has rotted the floor, and they really do need to cling to the big secret to get across. Yet they step on what looks like solid floor and fall, but Jetfire catches them and flies down to the core of Cybertron. It is a very long flight, and the dark energon dizzying them makes it feel longer. When they arrive at last, the plasma energy chamber attached to the core is seen poisoning it. Dark energon spikes surround the core, and Bumblebee is so distraught that he pulls them away with his bare hands, not caring as the harmful substance splashes all over him. Then, Optimus removes the plasma energy chamber, then begins to hear a voice speak. Primus tells Optimus that he has fought bravely but come too late. Yet now he shall give Optimus the true title of Prime, for it was never to give by the High Council or even Alpha Trion. The core brings forth the matrix of leadership that even Sentinel Prime has never been worthy of. He absorbs it into his chest as Primus tells Optimus to let the wisdom of the past Primes guide him. Optimus does not have a body change to be made more physically powerful by it, but he is strengthened by certainty. Having the matrix makes him fully aware of his responsibility to the other Autobots, and this will be the change in him that Ratchet later speaks about. Optimus becomes more serious from this moment on and confident in his right to be a leader. Primus now proclaims that Optimus must leave the planet because the core is too damaged to produce enough energon to fuel a civilization. It'll take eras to recover naturally, and he must protect the lives of the Autobots and one day return to Cybertron with the Matrix. As Optimus begins to leave the others, he tells them what they must do. But Jetfire is skeptical because to run out into space and hope to find Energon is a death sentence. Yet it is all they can do, and Optimus announces the building of a great spaceship, Project Generation 1. Get it? Jetfire carries Optimus and Bumblebee home to Icon, and along the way, the Matrix shows Optimus the lives of the other Primes. It is undeniable to him now that they lived. When Optimus announces the plan to leave Cybertron to the Autobots, there is a lot of protest. Bots would rather die on their planet than out in space, but Optimus explains that to stay is certain death from many ways. Jazz points out that if they are going to die, he would rather enjoy a spaceship ride first. Optimus would like Jetfire to create a massive diversion of smaller spaceships to hide the building of the Ark from Megatron. Still, most Autobots are not content with the plan, but they must obey. Optimus sighs out his concern to Alpha Trion, who is exhausted. Alpha Trion has been refusing his full energon portions, insisting that they go to the fighting Autobots. Optimus considers making the order that he must take it, but Alpha Trion says he'll disobey. And what's he going to do, throw him in jail? The Autobots have a large collection of small spaceships, and the Autobot Seekers have been patrolling the area to make sure Decepticons don't come close to see what they're doing. But the quiet on the side of the Decepticons has them wondering if the Decepticons are dealing with some massive problems. Cut to Megatron, who is asking Shockwave if it is ready. They are looking at a Frankenstein monster spark creation, a cluster of sparks forced together that had been taken from Starscream's scientists earlier on. The loss of the endless dark Energon is a blow to Megatron, but Project Triptychon is moving along just fine. Megatron has noticed the Autobots gathering and has seen from space their collection of little spaceships. Just as the Autobots planned, Megatron assumes that the Autobots are planning to leave the planet in them. Optimus announces that everyone will rendezvous at one of the abandoned space bridges, but Jazz claims that it doesn't work. Alpha-Trion says they simply do not know if it works, since it has been a long time since it was used. Then he jokes that he is older than the space bridges and still functions. Later, Optimus is unhappy to hear that Alpha-Trion has no intention of leaving Cybertron. Even with all the ships in the Ark, there's not enough space to take everyone. Alpha-Trion says that he will survive on Cybertron and that Vector Sigma will protect him. Also, he believes it is time for Optimus to learn to live without him. There is, again, no convincing Alpha-Trion to change his mind. The Autobots board their ships and take off towards the space bridge, and the Autobots note that the Seekers who fly by are not engaging them. They believe Megatron thinks he has won and is letting them leave. The Ark is not actually finished yet, and this is a test run to see if they can make it to the space bridges and know if they can get away. That is when Triptychon Station fires a devastating dark energon beam that takes out 2 ships. It has total view of the space bridge and there's no way to get close. Jetfire snaps at Optimus, calling the Ark project a waste of Energon and Autobot lives. Megatron then appears on everyone's screen in front of a huge, terrifying army of Decepticons, claiming that it is time to discuss the terms of their surrender. He challenges them to fight the Decepticons in Icon before he has vaporized each ship, and by now 4 have been destroyed. So Optimus calls for all spaceships to retreat and land. But the spaceship carrying Optimus sneaks and hides in an asteroid belt. They go into a blind spot for Triptychon as Megatron continues his video chat, not actually knowing where Optimus is exactly. Megatron apparently knows that Optimus has the Matrix, and the fact that he is found out shocks him. As Optimus sneaks up on Triptychon, he tells Megatron how far he has fallen, that he treats his own soldiers with little concern for their lives, that somewhere out there, a gladiator sees Megatron the way he once saw the High Council. This insult actually confuses Megatron for a moment. Optimus' ship attaches cables to Triptychon and they drill a hole and sneak inside. Jazz, Bumblebee, Prowl, and Sideswipe are with him, but then the station releases a few mechas to fire at them, and when defeated, the station reabsorbs them. Now they realize that Shockwave has given Triptychon life. They must fight off the walls, and they realize that they must eliminate the spark of Triptychon. They find the 2 with the cluster of sparks that give the station intelligent life that power its defenses. However, after shooting it, they find that the battle is not over. Triptychon Station crashes on the edge of the Mithril Sea with Optimus' spaceship still attached to it. They manage to survive and fly away, returning to Icon and celebrating the completion of the Ark. It had been a well-kept secret, built in the hole in the Well of All Sparks. With Triptychon Station fallen, Optimus commands all the Autobots to board the Ark. However, this is the part where the battle is not over. Triptychon had been semi-sentient before the spark experiment of Shockwave, and so they had not ended him. From the crash site, the largest bipedal Cybertronian Optimus has ever seen arises. Triptychon is heading toward them, and they need time. Jetfire offers to fly out with the flight-capable Wrecker, Springer. That is when Ultra Magnus suggests that a team of Autobots, the Wreckers, stay behind. How can Optimus know when to return to Cybertron if no Autobots remain? The Wreckers promise to destroy anything the Decepticons might build. At that moment, Ratchet enters and announces that Omega Supreme is ready to fight and shall fight alongside the Wreckers. Jetfire decides he too will stay behind on Cybertron with the Wreckers, claiming that they will need a Seeker. One last time alone, Optimus tries to convince Alpha-Trion to come with him. He cannot, but Optimus understands in his spark that Alpha-Trion is one of the 13 and he will be alright. As the Autobots take off in the Ark, Optimus looks back to his closest friends and thinks to all those names he knew but have died. Then he looks down below and sees the Decepticons swarming Icon after he abandoned it. ransacking it. He knows Alphatron is escaping underground, and he thinks of all the Wreckers and Jetfire who are going to engage Trypticon. However, they will not be able to, as Megatron commands Trypticon to take on its third form, a Nemesis-class battleship, I see it, and he follows the Ark into the sky. On board he has Soundwave, Lugnut, and Starscream among many other important Decepticon names. On Cybertron he has left Shockwave, who suddenly realizes that Cybertron is his to remodel as he pleases. Shockwave's mission is to rebuild Cybertron and kill every last Autobot in his absence. It is not a promotion, Megatron stresses, but Shockwave keeping his seat warm for him. As the Ark flies again, Megatron calls Optimus on his personal frequency. Throughout this novel, Megatron has not stopped calling him brother, even if it has been sarcastic. However, Optimus points this out, and Megatron claims that they will always be like brothers, bound together. Optimus shall not escape him among the stars, because Megatron will endlessly hunt him and find him. Optimus tells him to do so, for at least Cybertron will have a chance to heal in the absence of his madness. In his spark, Optimus knows how corrupt Megatron is. Cybertron is abandoned, but Megatron chases him because of a grudge. The Ark and the Nemesis pass through the space bridge, but it malfunctions and collapses right after. The two ships are flung to different places, but the Ark detects that the Allspark is nearby. Looking around themselves, the Autobots do not even recognize these stars, for there are no diagrams of them. Bumblebee worries that they'll never find Cybertron again, but Optimus assures him that he knows the way back. The Matrix will lead him there, and it will light their darkest hour. Yes, Megatron shall chase him, and the Autobots will fight their evil, wherever it will take them. And then, they will go home. And, whew, that was the whole novel, everyone. It took me many hours to make this, and my throat really hurts. I'm going to need a break before moving on to the second and third novels. Exiles is a space trip that takes both the Autobots and Decepticons to Velocitron and Junkion, as Optimus pursues lost relics of the Primes. And we may meet another member of the 13. Retribution shows the Autobots and Decepticons arriving to Aquatron, only to discover, to their horror, that they are now trapped on the Quintesson colony world. Both Autobots and Decepticons are being fed to the Sharkticons in the unjust justice system. It looks like they will have to band together to defeat a threat to Cybertronians from distant past. Stay subscribed for all the coming Transformers randomness and discussion videos.